So in your blog post, you talk about how loneliness can really affect someone's health, from their brain health to their heart to their gut, to just psychological effects and so on. So can you just tell us the different health problems that people can really go through if they are experiencing real loneliness?
Well, as you have said, loneliness is really just not in your head. It affects your whole body. Every part of your body is affected by loneliness. It comes with an increased rate of depression, of course. People start worrying. Loneliness is also seen as somewhat of like a social bankruptcy, like somehow you have the feeling that you have failed in terms of making friends, and that suddenly you realize that you have no friends and you're alone in the world, and you feel guilty. So that then produces all kinds of effects on your body, as I've said. For example, a few years ago, the Surgeon General of the United States said that loneliness is a real diagnostic scourge, because it's as bad as smoking 15 cigarettes a day and as bad as obesity. And that was just a few years ago. I think it was 2 years ago that the Surgeon General of the United States said that. Excuse me.
No.
In England, they actually have a minister of loneliness, because they have come to the realization that loneliness is a real disease. And you mentioned heart disease. Anybody who has got heart disease and they are lonely will have an increased risk of having more heart problems. They may have strokes. Their immune system goes down because loneliness produces stress. And so all the effects that we know have on our bodies will come with loneliness. So the whole immune system is not as effective as it was before, and so you're more likely to pick up diseases, infections, inflammations, and all that comes with it. So, like I've said, loneliness is really both personal and social, because the more people get sick, of course, the more society suffers, the more our medical system is called upon to treat these people, and things just escalate.
Got it. Yeah. So that's something that's really important, because people don't really connect loneliness with it having a physical toll on your body, right? And
Exactly.
obviously, if you've actually been through loneliness, you know how it actually feels. It's like a really heavy feeling, right?
Exactly.
So yeah, you mentioned, it's worse than like 15 cigarettes a
Yes.
day,
Yes.
and being obese and so on and so forth. Now, we talked about the heart here,
Yes.
but can you quickly explain the um problems it has with a person's brain? Like, how does it hurt a person's brain in terms of like physiological sense?
Yeah, I understand your question. Yes. Um, well, what it does is that as you produce more and more stress hormones, so this is adrenaline and noradrenaline, um,
Hmm.
your sympathetic system gets turned on more and more, and your parasympathetic system, which is your relaxation and restoration system, whereas your sympathetic system is fight and flight systems. So then you get more and more into a state of fight and flight, which for a short duration is very good if in fact you're fleeing or fighting.
Yeah.
But when you're not fleeing and you're not fighting, what it does is that it interferes with your neural circuits. And so what you have is that these stress hormones accumulate in the brain, and they start interrupting brain circuits. So they no longer function as efficiently as they did originally. Also, a lot of brain cells start dying as an effect of the toxicity of the adrenaline and noradrenaline. And so you will have cognitive decline.
Okay. Yeah, that's also really important because when your brain circuits are compromised, you slowly lose the ability to really use your brain in a swift way, right? You'll have like brain fog, you'll forget a lot of things. Now, is there a certain length of time that it takes for a person to really start going through these effects, or is it kind of like immediate?
It's not immediate. Like all these things, they take a while. I don't think that anyone has determined the exact time that it takes from the moment that you start feeling stressed to the point where you have actually decline physiologically in all your systems, the brain, the heart, the rest. But it will take time, and it will also depend on the kind of shape your body is in. If you are
Mm,
young and if you are in pretty good shape, obviously, you will be more resistant to stress than a person who already perhaps is in declining health to start with. So, people who have compromised health or who are older will definitely be affected more quickly and more rapidly and more deeply than people who are young and in good shape.
yeah. Okay. And then also, I guess when you're younger and then if you're fit, you tend to have more neuroplasticity, right? So you can rebound quickly if you did go through that damage. And that's probably why COVID was really, really bad for seniors because it's hard to rebound from that, right?
Yeah. By the way,
Yeah.
Shaq, I absolutely hate the term neuroplasticity.
Is that right? Why
Yeah.
is that?
Why is that? Because just think for a moment. What are plastics? I mean, if I hold up
Yeah.
something that is plastic, it
Yeah.
is definitely not living, right? It's dead.
Hmm. Yeah.
Plastics are dead materials. Neurons are not dead, they are living.
Hmm.
So to refer to neurons as plastic is
Yeah.
ridiculous. It
Uh
is
huh.
totally illogical. But this is not
Yeah.
your fault. I'm not being critical of
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Every neuroscientist uses that term without thinking it through, without realizing that it is totally illogical. What
Mm.
we should say is that neurons are very responsive to the environment and that they will change according to the requirements of the environment. But to call it neuroplasticity is totally illogical.
Oh, okay, so like you don't like the word neuroplasticity, right? So like, do you believe that the brain can change though after it's
Absolutely,
okay? So,
absolutely, absolutely.
mhm,
Every
yeah,
cell has got an incredible ability to respond to the environment. That is what is so mysterious and magical
hmm,
about our bodies. Yes, and that is why we need to take care of our bodies, both socially, like in terms of relationships, loneliness, and also physically, of course. We need proper nutrition, we need sun, we need water. I mean, all these things. We have to take care of our bodies in every way, socially, physiologically, etc.
oh, okay, great, yeah. So it seems like it just comes down to the neurons changing based on
Yes.
the current environment that you're in and just how you're living, right? But you don't like to call it neuroplasticity because it's plastics and so on and so forth.
Yeah, yeah. Let me
Yeah.
just make it clear. It's not that I don't like it. It just doesn't
Mm.
make sense. It's not logical.
Okay. Got it.
Okay.
Got it. Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah. No problem. No problem.
All right.
Okay, that's great. Now, in regards to the gut health,
Yes.
how does it affect someone's gut?
Well, that is a really interesting area of studies that have become more and more popular over the last decade. What we have seen is that the gut microbiome, so these are all the bacteria and viruses that live in our gut, which is about 5 kilograms, by the way. Like
Hmm.
it's a huge amount that most people don't realize. And most of these bacteria are very important because they really help us to stay healthy. And the important thing about our microbiome is that it must have diversity. In other words, you need to eat foods of all kinds. And unfortunately, what happens with people as they age, or a lot of young people, is that they eat very unhealthy foods, usually only of one kind. So young people eat a lot of fried food, very few vegetables,
Mhm.
very few fruits. So what you have is a lack of diversity. And when you have a lack of diversity, you have a lack of diversity in your microbiome. And research has shown that when that happens, when you don't have diversity, your health declines. And interestingly enough, there are several research studies which show that actually you decline in wisdom. Now, I don't know how this particular study measured wisdom, but that's what they came out with. And, I referenced that in my article.
Yeah.
But so not only is it a decline in wisdom, but also a decline in health. So, one of the most important things when it comes to good health is to have a diverse diet.
Okay. And then you're saying loneliness can really affect that.
Well, yeah, because when I mean, just think of people who are lonely. They don't go out very much. They don't go shopping.
Got it.
Uh, if they are lonely, it means that it's just one individual. So I mean, even I'm sure in your own experience, when you are by yourself, the evening comes along, you do something that is simple, like you are not going to cook up some kind of a three-course
Mm.
complicated dinner, right?
Yeah.
And some of the senior citizens will very often just have, something very simple like toast, perhaps toast and cheese or something of that nature. Or they may have breakfast cereal with milk for dinner. Now, obviously, this is not nutritious, and the more they indulge in that kind of a diet, the less divergent their bacteria are going to be in their gut, which then predisposes to more depression and more ill health. So it becomes a
Mm.
self perpetuating cycle, a downward spiral.
Yeah, so it's like a domino effect. Feeling lonely leads to other things. People just don't have the motivation to go out there and eat in a healthy way because they don't feel good, right? So what's the point of trying to do other things? And yeah, and that's probably where like binge eating comes from as well, right?
Yes.
You just sit there and just keep eating a bunch of
Oh,
foods
chocolate.
that are not nutritious.
Yeah,
Exactly.
absolutely. Sweet things or salty things.
Yeah.